Yeah, well, that was basically what my letter was about.
Oh,
was
all right,
what
thank
kind
you.
of Stuff is in there.
We're
what
Thank
might
you.
be
still haven't quite called the meeting to order yet.
Okay, I'll be standing by, thanks so much.
There's the meeting.
I think that's also. No. Never mind. To take up sleeping.
Hello? Everybody weak? You know? We're all weak.
Oh. That's cackling.
Yeah.
They're not
Motion to recess and convene as the Board of Equalization.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. The Board of Equalization is here to lead on Dan Trojan and Richard Trojan property assessment of 509 Hilltop Road.
So, Mr. Mayor, Eric Haberman and Henry Robinson are on the phone. They've got, ready to give a presentation, and a copy of the slides from their presentation in front of council. With your permission, we can get started.
Yeah.
Eric, go ahead.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Council, Mayor, hello. My name is Eric. I work for Alaska County. We're the contract assessors for the city of Craig. Just a little background on us real quick. We've been doing the assessing for the city of Craig for a little over 35 years now in one form or another. We used to work under the name of Haran & Co. Recently, we've split off and become Alaska County. Myself and Henry have a combined 14 years of assessing for you guys. A little background. And a quick point on what our goal is when assessing for you. We really want to make sure we do an accurate and fair assessment of the market value for the houses in Craig. We're actually a big proponent of the appeal process, and we do appreciate it when a citizens appeal. We want to know if we're getting something wrong or not. So we do appreciate this process and your time with us right now. And then a little quick reminder of what we do look for in properties when we're determining their assessment. It really boils down to two things: the physical assessment of the property, the quality, the condition, the size, the design of the property, as well as market trends. How much are other houses selling for in Craig? Is the demand going up? Is the demand going down? Same for the supply. Yeah, just some simple money stuff, hopefully. Quick overview of what we did this past year. We were just out there a month ago. At that time, we inspected 61 sites. We're generally picking out sites based on changes. These could be building permits, transfers, plot and parcel changes. I think we did have one parcel split this year, which happens once in a while. Property owner requests, sometimes they ask us to come out and reassess in person, as well as just random spot checks, because we want to make sure we're not missing anyone. On the residential side of assessment this year, we looked at sales from 2022 to 2024 to determine the trend of the market. And unfortunately, as someone who's trying to buy a house right now, the market is still going up. Vacant land and land with residential improvements have both seen an increase in sales, or increase in sales prices. And then interestingly enough in Craig, we've seen a decrease in available mobile homes, which is also followed by an increase of fair sales prices as well. Just a quick overview of the market as we've seen it. So on page 6 of the packet we gave you, or hopefully Mary handed out to you guys by now, you can kind of see an overview of how the market in Craig has trended. It used to be pretty consistent and even, and then 2020 hit, and then we started seeing increases since then on a fairly sharp curve.
Could, Mr. Mayor, can I, hold on a second. Richard, do you wanted to see what he's talking about here? There's actually a council member who showed it.
I have one right.
Oh, you have one there?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry about that.
Everyone good?
Yep.
7 is a quick review of the property that is under question right now. We're gonna call that the subject. And it's owned by Richard and Janice Trojan, 509 Hilltop Drive. This property is made up of 2 buildings, a main residential building that is 1 story, average quality, average condition, and then what we're calling a shop building. As far as we can tell, this building is not set up for residential inhabitants. That is a 2-story building, fair quality, badly worn condition. And these are sitting on a 6,890 square foot piece of land. We have the total assessment value for this property at $230,000. A quick add-on to what an assessed value is. The assessed value is what we believe the owner of the property could get if they were to try and sell this property right now in an open market. For this, I came up with 3 sales comparisons, starting on page 8. The first sales comparison is 403 9th Street. It is a 1.5 story building on a 6,100 square foot lot. And we have 2 sales for this property. The first sale was in 2021 at $280,000. The second sale in 2024 was for $331,000. On the packet, I made some notes. I have it as a 1.5 story building, average quality, and in good condition, so slightly better condition than the subject property's main building. So far, so good, guys and gals. Okay. Sales comp number 2 on page 9 is a single story, average quality, good condition building, sitting on an 8,000 square foot lot. We have 2 sales for this property. 2022, it sold for $320,000. 2023, sold for $331,000. On page 10, we have our 3rd and final comp. It is a single story building, average quality, good condition. This sold in 2024 for $350,000. So between those 3 comps, we acknowledge that they are all 3 slightly better condition. But at the same time, sales over the years have gone up, and they are selling for quite a bit of money. Now, we did take the condition into account looking at 509 Hilltop Street, as well as the fact that one of the buildings is a 2-story shop building. Now, we don't think the owner of this property could get $350,000 like the property that I showed, which is why we've adjusted the condition and the value of those properties down to $230,000. Any questions?
I do have one question. Do you have the numbers in front of you for the sales comp, 1 or 2 or 3, what you assessed them at? We see the sale price that you provided, but we don't have, I'd like to see your train of thought on what the sale prices is and what your assessed value is.
Sure. I do have the assessed value of those properties. They should be in the packets as well, along with photos of their properties.
We see the
Right
sales,
now,
we see the sale values, Eric, but not the assessed values on comparables.
Oh, I'm sorry, they won't be with the, slides. There should be separate pages we sent in. They should be the full property turnout cards. They'll have a history of assessments for those properties as well as a sketch and some other details and pictures.
I don't have those printed out.
Did you over?
If you have the assessed values at hand, Eric.
Sure. So for sales comp one on 403 9th Street, we currently have it set at $249,700. Part of that is due to the building is currently under construction. In the photos, you can see that the current owner has ripped out a deck and is doing some maintenance to it. So there has been adjustment to that one. For sales comp number 2, we currently have it set at $326,000. For sales comp number 3, give me 1 second. We currently have it set at $262,800.
Excuse me, once again, that one is assessed because of the lot size?
For sales comp number 3, give me 1 second. Let me flip some pages. Yes, a lot of that price difference is due to lot size. The lot is smaller. We have the land itself specifically valued at $56,000. The improvement specifically on that property is valued at $206,000.
And you got sales comp 3, basically at $188.37 a square foot, and you got Trojans at $181 a square foot. Do you take into account of like the view and the comp 3's more than twice the size of Trojans?
1 second. Price per square foot for comp 3 is $141 per square foot for comp 3.
Is that what it's appraised at or what it's sold for?
That's what it's assessed at.
Okay,
Give me 1 second and I will have you the sold price, or
188.
sold per square foot. Yep, $188 per square foot for that one.
And it was, for the appraised price, it was 140 something?
The assessed is 141.
All right, perfect.
Were there any other specific ones you wanted to ask about? Sorry.
No, that's all I was wondering. Any questions for? All right, move on to Mr. Trojan. Mr. Trojan, Dan, Richard?
Is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn. Sorry about that.
Always aim to be the top of the
We need to-
pile.
We need to redial the assessor out, sorry, we're having a problem.
Yeah, that's,
I'll let Henry know.
Welcome to City of Craig.
you wanna wait for him to get back on.
I don't think we have any more questions for him at this point in time, so.
Give him a chance to hear my side from me,
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate the effort that he's put into this thing and the comparisons and whatnot. I got a half an idea of the other 3 lots that he showed on there. They pretty much, you know, the house that they're saying is the primary building. It has a couple of foundation, concrete blocks under it, here and there for foundation. It's basically still on a skid. It was slid in there. The plumbing in it was done by Lee, in his spare time when he can. Comes in through the floor, goes up over the ceiling, comes across the top, goes across here and there. Exposed plumbing, the shower's leaking. Around the backside, on the south side of the house, he put vinyl siding on it. Never trimmed around the windows, so the vinyl siding, the trim around the windows is non-existent. I was aware that there were some foundation issues off the get-go. If you look in the pictures that we shipped in there, I had some people go in there and pull the skirting off it because it's hanging in the air anyway, so I could see what I have to do to address and stabilize the building. And we're in the process of trying to formulate a plan for what we want to do. I don't know if I really want to put a foundation under that building or put a stem wall around the building so that I can stabilize the building site. And then we'll start bringing the building up to snuff. The building itself was built by a guy named Bucksaw, the same guy that helped build Port Protection back in the 50s and 60s. So I'm guessing that building probably dates from the 60s. At this point in time, I don't want to try to put, as some people may say, some lipstick on a pig and get somebody renting it, because then I can't fix it up and do it right. So at this point in time, we have no income coming in from the property, and we have some fairly significant expenses that are going to be going out to bring it up to snuff, so that when it does become occupied, it's going to be a good building that is in good shape, not wing nutted together with some lipstick on a pig. The idea that it just transferred to us is, you know, the red flag that the assessors got a hold of and decided that they needed to look at it, is my contention. But again, comparing it to some other buildings that do have concrete foundations, this one's got 2 different electrical systems in it. They put in one electrical system, and that they didn't like that, so they put another one in there. Well, I would like to clean all that kind of stuff up, and that's going to cost us money, and so his value on the actual building is a little bit high. The item 10 down here on your list of how you're going to do all this stuff, you guys have the ability at this point in time to put what you might say is an appropriate value for the building. So you can say, leave it the way it is. You can say, go with what they've put in there, or you could say, let's find a happy medium in there, and we'll split the difference in there. So I'm hoping that you guys may say, let's raise it up from 180,000 to 200,000, but putting this up at the highest lift in the entire city of Craig for that building and the quality of it seems a little bit much for me. So any questions from anybody that I could answer, I'd be happy to do that.
How is the shop, is it sloughing down the hill?
It's gotta go away. I'm not gonna try to, I mean, I'm gonna stabilize the white building, the house. I've got an idea for a retaining wall right below it where I don't have to dig too much out of it. And then at some point, the 2-story building has to go away so I can get to the bottom of it, so I can stabilize that bank and then have something to build on that's done well.
The shop was assessed at $7.65 a square foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Well, it needs to go away. And really, the other one needs to go away too, but there's enough of it left, that it's solid enough, even though it isn't that old, that, but again, I'm not gonna try to salvage that vinyl siding on there because of the way I mean, you kinda gotta put the trim around the windows before you put the vinyl on, not the other way around. So we've got some pretty serious expenses to bring it up to snuff in my world, before we can put a renter in it, and jumping the value up in taxes, well, that's money that we can't spend on remodeling the building. Thanks for listening. Any other questions? So,
Yeah. I have to recuse myself from the discussion, but I just wanted to say that, the appraiser said that he physically inspected a month ago, and when I contested this, I asked the person that I talked to, did he physically inspect our building when he assessed it? And he said he walked around a year ago. The other point that I just wanna point out is their comparison picture is the east side, which is the best side of the pig. And then he compared it to, are the other three buildings occupied, because this building's unoccupied, and I'm done with it. So, thank you for listening.
I mean, it's pointed out a lot of relevant points. When I purchased my house here, the roadside assessment had my cottage appraised at almost $300 a square foot. And I looked at them, and I said, those are 2x4 roof joists, and they're on cinder blocks for a foundation. And that's how I actually talked the sellers that down on my house was, and the roadside assessor said, wow, we completely missed that. So they, tend to drive by and look at the house and go off of, what's being sold today, in today's prices, which is, we all know that we can't afford to buy, or kids can't afford to buy or sell houses, and this is part of the reason. So whatever the board would like to do. Do you have an idea of what you think your property is worth?
We bought it for the 180. If you guys wanted to make it 200 for the value of the property, I wouldn't dispute that at all. It's obviously a great view lot, but we've got a lot of money to spend on it to bring it up to snuff before I'll feel comfortable putting anybody in it.
When I was doing the math on $141 a square foot compared to $181 a square foot, it would have changed it about $31,343, which would have brought you right around that 200,000, right below that 200,000. Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time this, home was occupied?
When Lee moved out to go up to Wrangell to live with his wife, 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And we've been keeping it heated, but other than that, nobody's in it. And again, like I say, I gotta get a foundation under it. You can see how that front's cantilevered out over the front there. And, the idea of trying to dig a bunch of stuff out and putting a foundation under the building, I don't think the building is actually sitting square on the lot. I've talked with Scott Stewart next door about, he's given me permission to come across his property, to get in there if I need to get in there to, for getting rock or whatnot in there, as well as coming in on the property itself. So the idea that I got is that I'm gonna try to do a retaining wall between me and Scott Stewart, and then divide right between the two-story house and the pig, for lack of a better house. There's room in there where I can pretty much build a wall without having to X out a whole bunch of material, and then I would be able to fill in behind that up to the grade of the house, and it will just sit in there. And then if a person chooses in 10 years to make that house go away, then you have a plank, good foundation to build on top of up there. In the meanwhile, that's sort of my game plan for developing the lot. And then again, the two-story building, that was Lee's dream house, but his dream house it's gonna turn into a nightmare if a guy tries to go any farther with it. And there's no way to build a retaining wall below it with that house there, and it needs a retaining wall.
You know, as soon as you tear that building down, your property value is gonna go up.
Well, the biggest one is Bessie, the only thing she really could do with the last 8 or 10 years of her life was shop on Amazon for goodies. So we've got lots of cut glass, if anybody.
Alrighty. Board of Equalization, have any ideas? We did this a year ago, and when I asked the property owner if he thought the property assessment was fair, said yes, just didn't like the increase because of, that it was actually, mathematically, it was messed up, and they're actually getting charged less for property tax throughout the years than they're actually supposed to. But he did agree that the property assessment was correct, and we can't, as a board, we can't, agree with selling, changing it if somebody agrees that it's the correct property value, but with you being, Mike? With you being, saying that you don't agree with the property assessed value, that gives us room to where we can, maybe.
And I'm understand that property values are going up in Craig. And the joking off the get-go is I like to lead the pack, but I don't quite want to be the leader of the pack in this particular case. So, if we can negotiate somewhere in there, you're saying that we're going from 180,000 to 240,000, and my suggestion was 200,000. So you're saying 30,000. That puts us at 210,000. We're starting to get into where it's a lot more, not such a big pill to swallow.
240, my typo.
Your assessment is $230,600.
Oh, okay.
And at the $141, or $141 a square foot, that would put your place at $199,257.
So we're going back to my 200,000. So if we can go with that one, I would appreciate that and be happy, satisfied citizen.
If we could look at the sale prices of the houses around here and know that they're gonna go for a lot more, because people are gonna come here and pay what they can afford to pay for them. Yes, Mr. Mike Campbell.
One of the things that comes to my mind in the assessments is the three other comparison buildings or homes or reasonably decent buildings as the assessor asserts, and people, are living in them, decent, and even though this home had been occupied up until recently, taking it to his word, that's not something you could reasonably rent. And I think that the assessment is based upon a comparison of livable buildings. I can see his points, and I lean towards his suggestion.
Same, the comp 3, comp 2 has multiple rooms, multiple bathrooms, comp 1 has 2 rooms, 1 bath. I believe $1.40 a square foot is appropriate. There's a lot of money to go into this to get it to where it needs to be. Once it's there,
Then you guys can take me for a walk again around the back of the barn.
Do we have to make that motion? Like number 10?
motion in a second, let me go.
I'm sorry, could I interject real quick?
What do you have to add?
I just wanted clarification on the interior of that building. That's not something I was aware of in our initial assessment. And Mr. Turgeon was breaking up a little bit over the phone. Could I have another rundown of that, please?
So So the interior of the building, the plumbing, it was originally built as a float house. And when they put the water system in, it comes in the back room, goes up to the ceiling, goes across the ceiling, divides and goes into a real small bathroom that has leaks in it, and then divides again and goes to the kitchen. And the sewer system is, similar, where we don't quite know what we're doing, but as long as it slopes in the right direction, I guess that's good, was what they did when they did the sewer install. And then underneath it, it's still sitting on the skid that it was skidded up there on. And, under the skid, he's putting some, concrete blocks, 2 foot by 2 foot concrete blocks under the skid. So there's untreated wood skirting around the perimeter of the outside perimeter of it. And the Lee worked at the cannery down here, the cold storage, and they were throwing out a bunch of old fish boxes, and he cut the fish boxes up and used the sides of the fish boxes for flashing around the bottom of the building.
It looks like it's.
Okay, thank you for that. Could I actually ask for a minute to look at my model one more time? That's not information I had. I wanna make sure I'm accurate to that information.
Well, if you look at the picture, you can see that side of the building is settling and the vinyl siding is actually gapped. You look at the back side of the building that the pictures that Mr. Trojan has presented to us, it's not even skirted, there's no foundation going off the back half of what I would call like a modular type building. There's no foundation going around the entire building. There's multiple red flags of this to be compared to the sales comp on 3, that somebody was able to go to the bank and get a loan and purchase a house of this quality.
Just for clarification, the interior we were just talking about, was that the 2-story building or the 1-story building?
The 1-story building. The 2-story building is not finished inside at all, it's open studs.
Yeah, the 2-story building, we only have assessed at $13,000.
I don't dispute that at
The
all.
1-story building though, if you could give me one moment, I wanna look at a model of that one and make some changes based on the new information for the interior, is that all right?
Yeah, this,
And that might change what we're proposing for the assessed value of that property.
well, I think at this point, you've already proposed it. I think we're pretty much time to, maybe move on if it counts, the board of decides to move on what was suggested a few minutes ago. I'm not sure your remodeling of your numbers would be too helpful. Okay, yeah, all right, council would like to hear, what numbers you come up with. Basically, what we came up with was right around your $141 a square foot of what you had assessed for comp 3, not what it was sold for, but you had it appraised at, which would bring, Mr. Trojan's lot to $199,257 rather than $230,600.
Give me 1 second.
When we're waiting, I mean, it's appropriate to talk about just the, generally what's happening here. I mean, we all know, we're seeing people buy houses here at, levels that shock us, almost shocking. And, I mean, that's some of the challenge that we're facing here. It isn't just, the evaluation, it's the outside influences that are really driving up some of our prices here. And this is, I've gotten a lot of feedback that people are frustrated, and yet at the same time, I don't question the majority of these evaluations. That's what the market is.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. A majority of the appraisals that are going up are becoming becoming fair market value or basically supply and demand. The trailer house in Shawnee sold for roughly $50,000, here this last year. But we are trying to keep affordable housing to our residents in Craig, and having somebody get a high appraisal price on a property that's not finished yet, that may be a potential rental property in the future for residents of Craig, and something that they can polish up. I mean, I personally sold that property for $20,000 5 years ago, and today it's sold for $50,000. So, doesn't mean it's worth, you know, what it sold for, but that's the driver of what's going on in the community. So we have, you know, we have the chance to see what we think this is appraised for, fairly, and make a decision. There's a lot of red flags here. Not having a foundation, I'm surprised. I mean, especially around the back half of this place with stumps underneath where the foundation would have went. That's why they probably didn't put a foundation there, because got wood debris buried, as fill on the backside of the lot. But
If you didn't open up, you really couldn't, I took the skirting off the front of it because it wasn't doing anything when I started looking a little closer. And, you really didn't have a crawl space that you could open up and crawl into very easily. And so, they did a drive-by and looked at it, so, and you know, even though Lee used old fish boxes for skirting, he did a good job with what he had. So it looked pretty dang nice, but I know I walked around the backside and there's no trim around the windows on the weather side of a building around here.
Richard said on the first time that the water line was exposed on the interior of the house, and he didn't say it on the second time. If you go in the front door, and if there's a water leak, all you have to do is turn the water off, put a ladder up on the wall, and the 2 PEX pipes that are on the top. You can go ahead and, I think, is there a plan?
Hooked together with a rubber hose.
Yeah, it's pretty attractive.
Float house special.
Mr. Mayor, to my knowledge, when these assessors come around, I don't think they look at the interior. I've never had any of them come to my house and want to look at the interior. They're only looking at the outside of the house.
yeah. So as we look at the pictures from the outside of the
Right.
house that we got from the appraisers, and then we look at the pictures
Right.
from, they look, you wouldn't even expect these were the same places.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Lee done, he did a real good job of fixing it up with what he had. But he didn't really fix the root of the problem, which is the skids on top of concrete blocks underneath it. That's sort of the saving grace that I got right now, is that's what's holding that whole end of the house up, is the 2 skids that are still sticking out there. But they're not doing a very good job. I got some serious cracking going on in the living room walls.
Well, that's when I seen, before you said what the skirting was, that's what I figured, by the vinyl siding and the skirting was bowing down like that because of the settling on the lot on that side of it.
It sounds like this is a good time for me to hop back into the conversation.
Absolutely.
After hearing what Mr. Trojan had to say, about the construction of the property, we did make a change to the quality. The quality tends to involve the construction as well as the overall design of the property. And we went down from average to fair quality for the property. Our new proposal for the assessment, according to the numbers, is $209,500. The other thing I tend to go into the property is the effective age. And we have the
this is close. We have a purchase price of 180, we have a assessed value of 236. Turan's adjustment is very close, I would suggest shooting the middle of 205. I would support that. I will make a motion to adjust the assessment of this property, Mr. Trojan, Mrs. Trojan's property, $205,000.
Second.
Scratching, getting you?
Oh, I'm still doing math.
Oh, you're still doing that? All right, open for discussion for 205,000. Are we ready to vote on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, if there ain't all ayes, the great value is $205,000 for Mr. Trojan, property at 509 Hilltop Road.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we adjourn, just for clarification, the lower valuation was based simply on reducing the price of the house, the value of the house itself, not the land or the shop.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah, and he didn't contest the shop.
Right.
Um,
I just want to make
Yeah.
that clear for the assessor so they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
record it correctly.
Yeah.
It's really hard, you know, as a builder, the shop's garbage, but as garbage, it's definitely worth almost $14,000. You know, there is value in it, but cost money, take it to the dump.
It's stiff wind, it's the neighbor's problem. All right, thank you, folks, appreciate your time.
Thank you. We have a motion to,
Move to adjourn out of the Board of Equalization.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion to move back to city council meeting.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Open for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing from the public.
Yeah, but take a minute.
Hey, Brian, sorry, you guys are breaking up a little bit, could you just catch me up real quick?
So the council voted to reduce the value of the main building, to $115,300, with all of the values remaining the same.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for your time, we really appreciate it. Mr. and Mrs. Sturgeon, appreciate your time as well. Hope you all have a good evening.
You too.
Okay,
Bye.
my reason I stopped in today is to voice my concerns on sale of city property. I have no problems with leases, because a lease, the city retains the, rights, and in 50 years, 100 years, whatever the lease is, 20 years, that property would come back to the city for whatever they need it for. But when you sell it, it's gone. When you sell it, a person can say, I want to buy this for this reason. And as long as it's in the zoning, they don't have to do anything else to change their whole concept. What I would be, I'm ecstatic for the council to consider is that all sale of city property above 6,000 square foot, because most property around go before the voters to approve. If the, vote would require a special election, the person that's proposing to buy the property would be responsible for that cost. As I say, my major concern is, once this, as you guys know, there isn't a lot of land here. Unfortunately, the Native Corporation, I'm not sure can't or don't want to sell property for, and in 20, 40 years, we might want to build a new city hall, per se. And if we sell most of the property that the city has, there isn't going to be that ability for the city to meet its needs in the future. And if it does, as you know right now, the price of property is skyrocketing, and in 20 years, who knows what it's going to cost. So I'd just like the city to, the board, council, to take into account that and think seriously about putting the sale up to a vote of the public. And, you know, the public, 50.0001% of the public wants, sees a reason the property should be sold, then it should be sold. But, so, anyway, I'll cut this short, because I can gabble a long time. And, that is my biggest concern, is that the city does not, could be into a point where, and I think it's getting close, where there's no land for the city to expand their operations on. Thank you for listening to me.
Good job, John.
Thank you, John. Any more hearing for the public? All right, moving to reading correspondence. Harbor Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
Just a good, no actions required, so correspondence is a good place to stick those minutes if council's got any questions for us.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
It states here in Hans that the board wants to state that Fort St. Nick people are locals. And there was one other. I do like what Mr., I think, was it you, Mike, that was at the meeting? And I think the mayor has stated this before about under number 2, new business, adding parking to the corner of South Road. That would open up a lot of space. I think those are good topics.
And since you brought it up, I mean, for Fort St. Nicholas residents to be considered local and get a discount, I mean, our Craig residents' property tax pays basically for the, cost that doesn't cover our utilities, our harbor, and so on and so forth. So, that's a hard one when everybody in the community is gonna be paying for other people who come from out of town as well as Fort St. Nicholas to use our facilities.
Mr. Mayor, I will be presenting in the future here, a proposal that this, the Harbor Advisory Committee has asked me to, they voted on this, and we talked about the legality, like Craig residence, Fort St. Nick, where does it start, where does it stop? That will be coming to you guys in the future, and for your, for you guys' discussion, and ultimate, you'll be the one to make the decision. The advisory committee would like to proceed with this. And I was instructed to get the harbor rates and the balance, or the budget, wrapped up first, and then bring this to you. So this will be something that I will be bringing to the council, in the future, the near future, for your consideration. And Brian and I have had several talks about this, and we have talked about it at the Harbor Committee as well, about the legality of it. Does it pass or not? The pool, the Craig Aquatic Center, they offer a local discount, and that local discount applies to Craig residents. So, I don't know, but this is how they wanted to present it, this is what they wanted, so.
More comment on the issue.
Yeah, absolutely, we don't have to discuss that this evening, but, like I said, where Craig and Fort St. Nick end is about 1 mile out the road. So,
My lot.
right at John's lot, he actually built his shop half on the lot, so fire department. But we do, as landowners and Craig, pay a high cost, as we've been talking about all night tonight, in property value, and our taxpayers' money here in Craig pay for the pool, we pay for the harbor, we pay for water, sewer, and garbage. So, I mean, I would definitely have a strong conversation with them about, what it looks like. I know there's a lot of charters, people out St. Nick local, that would pay the higher cost, not to be paid property tax like we do here in Craig at the harbor. So it's a small cost for them to pay a little bit more than other places as it is not to pay property tax every year, but, thank you, Pon. Any more discussion on harbor committee? All right, hearing none, moving on to consideration of resolution and ordinances, resolution 2507, setting the mill rate for 2025.
Move to adopt resolution 2507, setting the calendar year 2025 mill rate at 6 mills.
I second it.
Open for discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it says as a reminder that the city does not have control of the values set independently by the assessors. That goes for, but may adjust the overall property tax by adjusting the mill rate. So, like, personally, I believe 30% increase in mobile home values is a jump. So the only thing we could do, if I could do, to try to amend it, is to drop the 6 mills, drop it down from 6 mills.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the council's mechanism for reducing the amount of tax paid. It wouldn't change the valuations of property,
But it would
but it would reduce the
It would
amount of
reduce
tax paid.
everybody's.
Yeah. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I have a thought on this. We did provide relief a couple years ago, for one year, a little bit. And I know our budget is based upon 6, and, it'd be hard to change that right now. I guess what I'm thinking is forward, it'd be nice to, maybe in the future on our budgeting, leave a little bit of a margin there. I could be persuaded with if we had a little bit of flexibility in our budget to lower the rate again, or, at like 5.575 or 5.5 or something. Considering where our budget is, I don't wanna upend all of that, but maybe in the future, not budget rate to basically the last penny. And if we have these continued assessments that, continue, basically it's a burden on a lot of the property owners here, we can be in a position to give them some relief.
whenever we travel. You know, we don't do a luxury tax for, you know, Airbnbs and second homes that are, you know, rentals and so on and so forth. Every time I travel, I'm always paying $100 and some luxury tax on, you know, we say we have a lot of problem with Airbnbs because they're not rented out to the public, they're rented out, but it's just one way to, you know, a different tax to be, you know, implemented, for an incentive, to actually gain some of that, finances back on those properties that are not becoming homes and rentals, to the community that people are making money on. I know we have a hard time with the $10 bed tax, but, there's, you know, we got a lot of people coming in buying houses and for raising their increase. It would be one other way to supplement our income.
Mr. Mayor, I'll also note for the council that we're exploring some optional, property tax incentives that would, I'll say could, have the result of reducing the tax burden on residents while keeping our property tax revenues fairly, level. So, we'll certainly, we can leave some room in the budget next year, for a reduction, but we're also exploring some other alternatives.
Okay, well, that's what my point is, just, you know, for the people who live here and live here long-term, you know, this is a burden on some of them, and if we can find, if there's other alternatives, I'm game to hear them, that's great.
Mr. Mayor, a quarter of a mil, if we dropped it a quarter mil, we're talking about $34,000. So we're, you know, we go back down 575, we're only going to $760,000, you know, for the revenue.
But our budget is for 6 now.
8, oh yeah, total 6. The only issue I had with the administrator's comment is we sat here last year through, I think, 2 meetings about beautification to try to adjust this, and through that conversation, it was too complicated to find out who gets a credit and for painting or deck and this. This is the easiest way. If we want to try to adjust it, we can adjust it down to 575 and try to figure out where we're going to find another $33,000 in the budget.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to, Josh's comments, I appreciate that, and I have that in mind too, with the comments that our city administrator shared, we're looking at options, I'd be inclined to go with the resolution as it's proposed, but actually, instead of waiting until budget time and then get all the way to this point and realize, you know, we have this issue, sometime in the next 2, 3 months, 3, 4 months, we can maybe have a committee or have presentations to the council to start considering how can we address these issues, in an equitable way and not, you know, not see these big burdens on some of the residents, so. I think we need, what I'm saying is we do need to take proactive action, and we're waiting until the last point, so let's, you know, schedule that into our council consideration for the next few months, for the following year.
Absolutely. Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Liz Hunter.
Yes.
Dennis Jordan.
Yes.
Bonnie Thomas.
Yes.
Josh Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Hopefully we'll get some suggestions for this next year. There's some good ideas, don't worry about them right now, but once we get them more refined.
I'm happy to put some of those together.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Likely, you know, the discussion is multifaceted, so probably welcome the discussion from the council about how to raise revenue to offset property tax, or, you know, some other ways that we can approach property tax.
All right, moving on to resolution 2508, adoption of park rates.
Move to adopt resolution 2508.
Second.
still not covering the cost of operation, which they're supposed to, because it's an enterprise fund. I don't want us to see their harbor rates go up or any rates, but, you know, I think it's necessary.
I do have a question for the minister. So during our budget committees, we had a percentage to try to chip away at the utility end. You know, yeah, so how much are we getting ahead when we're still behind from the previous set? You know, we're here to 75%, it's kind of complicated, we're still behind, but how are we getting closer? You know, is 7.5 even close? Should this be 9?
No, we'd have to have a 300% increase.
Yeah, there would probably be a 40% increase to wipe out the difference.
Okay.
So we're fighting inflation, we're fighting the fact that, costs go up each year for various things. So the 2.5% is to keep with the, CPI, which is our way of kind of trying to match inflation, although that's probably still low for inflation. And then the other 5% is supposed to get us 5% closer to the department operating at flush, but again, it's probably a 40 to 50% increase would be required to get it flush. So 5% per year for the next 12 or 14 years, assuming that inflation doesn't go up too much.
Maybe costing our
We're,
community
we're,
members.
I would put it this way, Josh, we're treading water. And maybe we're slowly making our way to shore, but we're not moving at great speed.
Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I ask Hans a question? What does this actually look like, 7.5%? You know, do they? did you
No,
guys
like
have
how
this-
much?
Did they have a discussion during your community? Oh, see, I didn't see this.
Yeah, so there's and that shows the changes to each of the individual rates.
That's the rate schedule, I thought that would have been in, it is, okay, it is.
It is? Oh, sorry, here we go.
Okay.
There we go. I don't remember, I looked at this.
The next one down.
Yeah.
If I could back up just one little bit, as last year we had some rate increases, that, the fiscal year doesn't end until, the end of June. And so the harbor rates, or the harbor revenues kind of come in waves with the different fisheries and the different activities of the year. And so we don't quite know where our, increases landed us exactly until the budget's all, or until, you know, the revenue's all settled up at the end of this fiscal year. We know that there's still a deficit, and so like Brian was saying, we're chipping away at it.
And that's just another factor that makes it hard to say exactly how fast we're chipping away at this, because we won't know what the actual revenue based on last year's changes were until after July 1st of this year, which of course is too late for the budget approval.
You know, as a customer, it's not hard to buy anything and see a couple dollars, $5, you know, increases. So it's really not that bad as, you know, on the business side of the city. You just can't get out of it.
That's why property tax is so important. Somebody's watching. Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor, have we had any comparison on these rates to other communities our size?
Yeah.
We've done some work internally and looked at some of the other rates, Millie.
I mean, I'm looking at, the liveaboards. $75 a month is nothing compared to a rental. Are they paying for garbage? Are they paying for anything?
Water and garbage are the services that they receive from that liveaboard.
For $75?
$900 a year.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So a person who has a liveaboard, then they pay for power?
They would pay for power, yeah.
So it's that is separate.
That is separate, if we were able to, you know, if they had a permanent slip, or if we were able to hot berth them into a slip, they would, partner up with, or get a meter from AT&T assigned to them, and they would pay that power pedestal on their own.
So would it be unheard of to say it's $1,200 a year to live in the harbor?
I could come back with some other numbers. Our live aboard rate is, that's actually kind of on par for most of Southeast Alaska. A lot of our other rates are still pretty low, pretty reasonable. The live aboard, is pretty fair. Some other communities will tack on another $15, $20 if there's more than one person, living on the boat.
No, I think Millie hit it right there. So last meeting, we increased the rate for water, for our utilities.
Mm-hmm.
But even your live aboard, it would have to increase for that adjustment.
Yeah. What, if I could say, that $75 live aboard rate was developed, we developed that back in 2018. It used to be $50. And at the time, I just went to the finance director and I picked a certain individual in the city that, you know, just lives in a small home, he's a bachelor, and I said, what does he pay, just as a minimum for, the minimum use of water, the minimum size of garbage can, the minimum amount of sewage, like, what is he paying? And that was about where we got the $75. Those rates have increased, so that was where that number came from originally, was based on what it would cost someone to live in Craig, minimalist, you know.
How many live aboards do we have?
I think I could take a little bit more time to add them up, but I'm gonna say between, 10 and 12, 15, 12, 10 to 15.
Okay, so that's not gonna tighten up all the funds, though. But I do say that it's low, but 10 to 12 is not gonna help us in the harbor that much by bumping them up.
Mr. Mayor, just as a reminder, the council has authority to modify by amendment, either the overall, rates or individual rates on the rate sheet.
That's where I was saying.
Yeah. Make sure that you need.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, I move to amend the 7.5% and raise it to 8, and then the administrator and, harbor department can adjust whichever one they wanna get on par. You know, take that 5.5%. I don't know how that works out, but maybe you can put it on live aboard.
Well, and with the water sewer garbage increase, I mean, there's been an increase in, I know what I pay for water sewer and garbage. This doesn't even cover my water sewer and garbage every year. The pedestal that you brought up, you know, AT&T, you know, they pay AT&T for the meter, but we maintain the pedestal. We don't charge any pedestal rates for that. So there's little things like that that we can add in cost, you know, to start filling out, looking at that stuff in the future for. So you got something?
I second Judy's motion.
All right, yes. Second motion.
Just to clarify, so the motion is just to go to 8%?
Yeah, since I don't wanna start picking out individual line items and then we can just move, they can move it up. We'll get 0.5% closer.
Yeah, we can do that. That's enough information for us to move forward.
I have one question. Why doesn't it apply to everything?
That's a good question. Some of the items that just are like low traffic, like there's not very much, you know, there's not very many sales in certain pieces of it, and the prices were kind of already at a pretty good standard price. And so I kind of tried to apply the increase, to the things that sell more of. I don't know how else to better explain word that, sorry, but if that makes sense.
I mean, if we're at a 40% deficit, it just seems like it would be easier to raise all of the prices by 8%. And we're still 32% away from where we need to be.
I'll certainly take a second look at it and see, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Like, for instance, the transient electrical, that's transient electrical, that's getting a deal, I mean, those are the things that, if they come into the community, that's not hurting the locals, that's, so on and so forth, there's a lot of stuff that would not affect the residents of Craig, that might, be able to not lose money if you're not a resident of Craig, they should be, we should be, making money on the people that are coming in, using our docks as transients compared to the people who pay their property tax, and get the break at the dock. So that's, one, like a lot of these transient fees, that we're losing money on, that our taxpayers, property tax are paying for, is one thing I think we could probably start with when we start looking at it. Right?
So, by code, by municipal code, the council has to adopt the rates. And so, just passing the resolution tonight won't accomplish that. We'll still need to bring back a new rate sheet reflecting an 8% increase. I'm not sure how council wants to handle that as far as this resolution. I think if you let this resolution die by vote tonight, we are happy to prepare a new resolution with the updated rates. We have enough information to go back and do that. Or the council can pass the resolution tonight with instructions to bring another resolution back with the other 0.5% increase.
I feel more comfortable doing that.
Okay. Yeah. Important just to say that the final will have to come back to the council.
Any more discussion?
Just to clarify, right now we have Josh made a motion, it's been seconded to adjust this resolution, is that correct?
To 8%, 25%.
We would have to take another vote to,
And they'll come back to approve after all the prices are adjusted for the 25% increase on everything.
okay. I'd like to follow up with one more thing that Billy asked. I did the comparisons years ago. If you look at Ketchikan, Petersburg, Sitka, Juneau, the bigger harbors, they're in the range of $40 to $50 a foot. It might be higher now, that was, 15 years ago or more. And of the smaller harbors that we're more comparable to, we were always at the mid to lower end of the range. It's just been historic for us to be at the lower end of the range, so it's kind of tough as this is to think about having these kinds of increases, it really reflects the reality of where we are financially.
Last year's mortgage increase was the first one since 2018, and it hadn't been moved much since before that, just as a little history of it.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Kevich?
Yes.
Larry Crawford? Yes. Jenny Sturgeon?
Yes.
Tom Hills? Yes. Josh Bennett?
Yes.
All right, moving to ordinance 791, water sewer.
Mr. Mayor, that was to approve the amendment.
Yes. Oh, yes, sorry,
Original
that's approved the
motion.
amendment. Yeah.
So I move to approve, adopt City of Craig Harbor fee schedule for 7/01/2025, with the fees being based on an 8% increase.
Second.
That's the motion.
Yes. Oh, that's the motion.
Oh, yeah.
Since the amendment passed.
Oh, yeah.
Since the amendment passed, my bad. Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Mike Kevich?
Yes.
Larry Crawford?
Yes.
Jenny Sturgeon?
Yes.
Tom Hills? Yes. Josh Bennett?
Yes.
All right,
Thank you,
ordinance
council.
791, water, sewer, and garbage rates.
I motion to approve the ordinance 791 adopting the utility rates for municipal garbage, water, wastewater, as shown on schedules A, B, and C of the ordinance. Rate increases will be effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Open for discussion.
we're same thing here, we're behind and we're just catching up and as tough as it is, it's a necessity.
Yeah.
It's kind of my plan until the council calls uncle to propose a CPI plus 5% increase year to year.
We got a failing, age system that's got a lot of, about $30 to $40 million that's needed to redo our water sewer infrastructure here, so, and it's, everybody across Alaska is in the same boat, so without affecting the community members too much that live here and the residents, this is, why, people in town should pay, or do pay a little less than the people who aren't paying property tax out the road, so that's, they do pay a different rate, so that's, any more discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Matt Page?
Yes.
Liz Harrigan?
Yes.
Joe Surgeon?
Yes.
John Thomas? Yes. Josh Bennett?
Yes.
Moving to ordinance 792 FY 26 budget, first reading.
Move to adopt. Second.
Open for discussion.
Could we adjust, the third dot down to 8%? Harbor rates as a result of 8% increase in harbor revenue, we just changed it, paperwork one of the book.
Yeah, we'll make that change before, and include that in the second reading of the ordinance.
2.5% COLA for all employees.
That's even seasonal employees?
Yes,
Is that full-time employees?
yes, all employees.
Oh.
Salary, wage, full-time, part-time, seasonal, temporary.
Okay, when I hit you on this one, contract employees?
Yes, every contract
Okay.
employee, all zero, and then get a 2.5% increase.
I was fortunate, I was up, Black Bear Mountain, I missed the last budgetary meeting, and was not there when the, fire budget, volunteer fire department budget came out. I spent quite a bit of time this last week discussing, their budget. They had $80,000 budgeted for rollout gear, and we approved, the committee approved, $20,000 for rollout gear. Apparently, a year or so ago, or longer, they had a grant that was not utilized because they had rollout gear that was coming from Hawaii after the fire. So unfortunately, we missed that opportunity to ask people who are in charge of that grant to get new rollout gear. It's come to my attention that their rollout gear now is gonna be expired here in about another month. Discussing it with the fire chief and other staff, basically coming to, kind of ahead of what can we do? If we only have 5, certified suits, and we have 2 trucks, or we look at our volunteer fire department and say, hey, your gear isn't certified, run into the fire. I'm not gonna say they're not gonna do that, but talking with the fire chief, basically, what can we do to man 2 trucks? And we discussed basically 10 sets of rollout gear, and looking for, when they update their bylaws, gear coming to the council here soon, if they decide to get 20, they can apply for a grant to get the other 10 rollout gear, and they'll still have 2 trucks, two groups of people, because I'm like, at this point in time, we can't even cover Fort St. Nick or Glock or anything else with certified gear. We've got 5 guys with certified gear, or we're looking at our volunteer fire department and asking them to put the gear on and, under good faith. So basically, with the budget that, with the $20,000 for new rollout gear, I was looking at basically another, $23,280 would give them, 10 sets of rollout gear. They're in a time crunch of when they can order it. I was told, Dave, you can touch on this about tariff coming up in July.
So the current vendor, it's June, the date that they gave was June first, there would be a 10% increase due to tariffs. And there's a 6 to 8 week lead time on the gear, so even if we order it this week, it's gonna be July or August before we receive the gear.
And we've got a grant to purchase a new compressor, which covers the new compressor, but it doesn't cover the shipping on the new compressor. That was,
It's gonna be really tight, yeah.
it's gonna be really tight.
I think Elmore told me the freight from Seattle, it'll arrive at Seattle, on the vendor, and then from Seattle to here, it'll be, I believe, Elmore told me in the neighborhood of $500 for freight.
$500.
For shipping?
Yes, sir.
Is there, could you talk to Vanessa, and she was gonna ask, Ann or Virgil, see if we can get a donation for when she was talking about her power lift? Is that a possibility?
I can go back to Sherilyn and see, we've got other stuff coming from up north that, I've received a quote on as well, and that purchase will take place after the new fiscal year. But I can see what, AML would offer for this. Might be slightly in a better bargaining place now.
And for the rollout gear, is that including shipping?
There's $800 of shipping on their quote.
Okay.
And that amount did not change whether it was 20 or 10, so I'm not sure if that will come down with just 10 suits or not.
So basically, if we could amend the budget from $20,000 to basically $45,500 is what would be a $23,500 increase to the budget.
And this is the first I'm hearing about, a time crunch to get it ordered.
Yeah.
But the budget in front of the council is for fiscal year 26, it doesn't start until July 1st.
Yep.
We can't encumber any of those funds until July 1st. So if the council would like us to bring back, an appropriations request at the next council meeting, we can do that with current year money, we can do that before July 1st. But the capital appropriation that's in the budget is funds not available until July 1st.
Okay. Basically, the 10% tariff would add another $4,528 onto that.
And I became aware of that today as well, Brian. It wasn't something that was,
Which would bring it up to basically $28,000 amended on the fire budget for next year. That's just, now you know what I know.
Let's first reading the budget, we can't have that because the money, we need to purchase it before.
Well, you can add it to the budget for next year, we just can't purchase it before July 1st.
I'm not purchasing it before July 1st. Hopefully you don't have any fires that you need to run into before July 1st. But if we know that there's nothing we can do before July 1st unless we, move to do that this year off of a different motion, then figure it out and take funds at any time.
I feel like we should move things around. We can't have them faulty equipment until July 1st, and then who knows how long it's gonna take to get here.
do is we could amend their budget and take their $20,000 off of the FY '26 and allocate them 40, $30, basically $52,000 to purchase the gear immediately. I mean,
Yeah, if council wants to do that, we can
you'd be
certainly.
roughly 50,280, but $51,000 to order it now than later. And they would be moving their $20,000 on to basically taking it off, just like they were. But that's. And that would actually save you $4,500, because you'd be ordering it now, so actually that would be $45,280.40 would cover the cost of ordering them right now. So, can't afford it because we're saving money now. Mike?
So a question for the administrator, the cleanest way to do this would be to just to approve this budget as is, and then make a different resolution for expedited purchase now?
$52,000. Yeah, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a resolution, but,
Just an authorization?
yeah, if the council gives this direction to remove that line item from the FY '26 capital budget, I can bring an action back to council on June 5th. June 5th is, when does the tariff go into effect?
According to the vendor, the tariff goes into effect, June 1st for them.
Yeah, it's,
So,
it's not an agenda item for tonight. So,
what do you?
$50,000 would require council approval to move. I do have discretionary money, but it's not anywhere near. I have discretion to move money in the budget, but not $50,000.
$45,280, you have?
Nope. I have 10,000. I can move $10,000 from one line item to another within the budget, under my budget authority. Anything over that, either new appropriation or moving money, would require council approval. Moving
Well, that's what
money.
we're doing, that's what's going on right now, is council approval to move.
So the question would be for the council whether or not to take up financial items that's not on the agenda and pass it. Because that would be the only way to solve that tonight, would be for the council to take up an action to appropriate money for this purpose in fiscal year 25.
I think that'd be a great idea. You have a good idea, Brian?
I'm not on it as a great idea, I'm just telling you what it would take.
Well, if this was for anything else besides for our volunteers, I would respectively give the community time to, discuss it, but being that time is in the essence with this, it's pretty important.
This is a health and safety issue, and I'm comfortable with it.
So don't we have a motion on the floor?
We have to amend,
Take off
take the $20,000.
We can take that direction, since it's first reading, the ordinance will come back.
Right.
If the council passes first reading as is,
Okay, perfect.
we'll take the direction both to the harbor rate increases and removing this item from the budget before we bring it back to the next meeting.
All right.
Fingers, round fingers.
I do have a question, but it was basically off comment what the minister just made. The minister has, the power to move $10,000 for a line item, if he so chooses, he or she so chooses. Numerous times, one time, if it's in the same.
Not to pile up on one project.
Okay, but is it a project, or is it, a department? Can you move several $1,000s?
I can move between departments, between line items in the budget.
Only $10,000 at a time.
Well, it's been my practice to not move more than $10,000 from or to any appropriation. That's the way that I $30,000 if I did that.
Okay.
Nice try.
Any more comments or questions on the budget?
Question,
Yes.
I called for.
Roll call for questions, I thought you had questions. Roll call please, Mary.
Tom Savage,
Yes.
Dennis Garber. Dennis Garber.
Yes.
Dan Sturgeon,
Yes.
Sean Bus,
Yes.
Joe Bet.
Yes.
So now
All
we'll
right.
do a draft.
Now, if somebody would like to make a motion to allocate $46,000 to the fire department for your rollout turnover here
Sorry about terminology, but it would be to appropriate,
to appropriate.
from fiscal year 25 funds.
What the mayor said.
To appropriate.
To appropriate.
Second.
We have a motion to appropriate $46,000 of the FY 25 budget for your rollout gear immediately as soon as possible to get that PO out. So, open for discussion.
Like I said, it's a life and safety issue, I'm not comfortable with this, it's not an agenda item, but it's a necessary one.
Absolutely, we met in the middle, so that goes far a long way for $80,000.
Yeah, I appreciate, getting 10 suits, and we'll get the next 10 off of a grant. I appreciate your guys' decision.
We appreciate you guys, seeing you guys standing next to frickin' propane trucks, and, I mean, it was unfortunate that we missed out on, that grant, but that has not anything to do with us today, so I appreciate everything you guys do, especially as first responders. Any more discussion?
I would just ask Mr. Mayor for clarification.
Yeah.
Does the council want that money pulled from the capital reserve, or does the staff have discretion to pull that money from a combination of general funds and capital reserve?
I think we're basically just allocating another $23,000 out of the capital reserve. They were pulling $200,000 out of the capital reserve this year on the FY 26 budget. Last year, we pulled $250,000 out of the capital reserve to make our budget. So basically, we're just, we're still under what we allocated last year out of the capital budget to make it easy.
Question for Mr. Administrator, do you anticipate there may be general fund revenues that are allocated or already been budgeted that may not be used that could contribute to this?
I can certainly piece it together. We're almost at the end of the year, the council has $5,000 or $6,000 in discretionary funds, and there are a number of line items like that I don't anticipate we'll spend. So I could piece together most of the $45,000 from unspent general fund items and the remainder from the capital fund.
As long as it's done in a timely manner, I'm good with that. We got to drag our feet on this. Not that you would, but I mean, if it needs to happen, hopefully within, next day or so.
We have authority to spend it, so.
Yeah.
We can move it, we can finish reconfiguring the 25 budget next week to figure out exactly where it moves from.
Works for me.
Week after that's June, so, go ahead.
So, just for clarification, for me, would I be able to pull the trigger on this order on Monday? I'm not saying that it'll be invoiced on Monday, but would I be able to let the vendor know that?
You got approved through the council, I'd say absolutely, you'd be able to, if they would do your purchase order without payment. You have authorization from council to spend that money, so you can work with your vendor and have them work with the city for payment, but, as long as, we can get creative and pull it from other places, if we have leftover revenue, but, as long as it happens here over the next couple of days, when we're open, of course, not over the weekend. All right. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Tom Savage.
Yes.
Dennis Garber.
Yes.
Dan Sturgeon.
Yes.
Sean Thomas.
Yes.
Josh Bennett.
of my crew and myself and the community overall, we all appreciate, what took place. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. And,
I
our other
I'd
hero
like to
code-
say, Dave's doing a heck of a job.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, new business, 2024 Salmon Derby Excess Fund Allocation.
I motion to approve and appropriate $4,991.25 in excess revenue from the 2024 King Salmon Derby to the Craig 4th of July committee. Second.
Any discussion?
One comment, it's not specific, but it is about the 4th of July. So last year, the 4th of July committee ended up with just 2 or 3 people helping him, and he really struggled, and we did talk about having some people from the council volunteer, and just to remind everybody that.
Yeah, that was definitely, yeah, because they did a good job last year, and you stated that they do need help.
Yeah, they're getting burnt out on both ends. We got, 3 of them that are just go-getters, but it's time to get more people stepping up.
I don't see them advertising for any meetings unless I totally missed it.
I think they've been pretty low-key on asking for volunteers. I think they've been concentrating on their own internal work, and I've been told by the committee members that recruiting volunteers has not been
When
a
you
high
don't
priority for
advertise
them.
it,
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand.
I'll tell, I'll let Karen know to advertise better, because I know, her and Rhonda, extensively, put a lot of time into this, and tell her to get some advertising going out there. We got some people that wanna volunteer.
Do they have a Facebook page?
I don't believe so, but we can certainly, we've already volunteered to the committee to do, social media and posting on the website and stuff, so Mary and Kelsey have been, what's coming in, which has been a lot, from 4th of July, I've been posting those.
I do have a question, this is great, I'm not disagreeing with anything. Who does the checks and balances for the 4th of July committee account?
Starting this year, Kimber.
yeah.
Okay.
Fourth of July
As of
account is
January.
now on the auditor's radar. That's one of the things that they picked up on this last year. And so it now has to be reconciled and has the same, cash controls, fiscal controls that any other city account has.
It completely makes sense.
Can I just add too, they do have a Facebook page, but I don't think it's used regularly. It's mostly used to like post like the duck race winners and stuff like that, but there is a page.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Mike Kennis?
Yes.
Joyce Carter?
Yes.
Dennis Trump?
Yes.
Sean Thomas?
Yes.
Joe Bennett?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Moving on to FY 26 CCSD local contribution.
Move to approve a local contribution of $1,180,000, 413, sorry, I said it all wrong. $1,180,413 for fiscal year 26. Further, to direct staff to draw $480,413 from the APMCM account as part of the contribution.
Second.
Open for discussion.
What is left in the APCM account after this withdrawal?
About $1.8 million that's set aside for the capital project match, and then another, I don't know what the balance is today.
$550,000 after that.
$480,000. So essentially, will be enough after this year to make a similar contribution next year, but assuming that the capital match funds are fully spent off, there will not be enough for a third year. I was hoping that the check we got for the NFR this year was going to at least put us a couple $100,000 more ahead. I knew it was gonna be lower than last year. We got the check, a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's $11,000.
It was 11,800, come on now.
$11,877.
Yeah, we're like, you want
So,
pennies or?
You essentially, if my calculations are correct, the 475 this year, the 1.84 million for the capital match leaves about one more contribution to the school district of about $475,000 next year.
And they know this.
They are aware of that?
I have made this
Yes.
as clear as I can in correspondence and conversations with the school district multiple times.
Okay.
Unless,
Okay.
unless the SRS gets reallocated, which hopefully, the BSA gets increased immensely, which is not looking like that's gonna happen, but, then, yeah, I think it'll be,
Yeah, I tried to be very clear with the school district that
yeah.
the reserve account is extremely limited at this point.
So what are you hearing from the SRS program? It's done. Over.
Well, I'm hearing, I'm hearing some people say that there's stuff moving and going on. I'm also hearing from the congressional staffers that they're looking at creative solutions, which is never a good sign. I have not seen any movement in Congress.
So
to reauthorize
Patty
the
Murray's
program.
not pushing it, cause she's
I
a
think
strong one.
She's also in the minority, and so, I
Yeah.
mean, there's probably conversation, I'm sure, but I have not seen anything rise to the level of, likely to make it to either the House or the Senate floor. And a reminder too, that even when it's reauthorized, that program is always a year in arrears, find the right word. So even if the Congress were to reauthorize that next year, the money would have to get into the budget, and then we wouldn't see a check for another year after that.
We might be able to make it. There's still a chance, Josh. Still a chance. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please, Mary.
Mike Cavendish?
Yes.
Liz Gallagher?
Yes.
Janice George?
Yes.
Sean Thomas?
Yes.
Doug Bennett?
Yes.
Moving to the at-large IFA seat appointment. We've got two of them.
Mr. Mayor, can I throw something before the motion is on the floor? We had a discussion, with the IFA staff this afternoon. The question came up late in the day, whether or not, someone who did not live in an IFA community could be appointed to the at-large seat. And, one of the letters is a Port St. Nicholas resident, which does not live in any IFA community. And as I understand my discussion, the IFA staff would not be eligible to be appointed to the at-large seat.
That was gonna be my question.
I was with that conversation as well, and had a conversation with Ron Curtis, and basically, we're not appointing somebody on this seat. We are nominating somebody to be appointed by the IFA board. And so we're basically, they will vote on, not whoever was nominated from other parts of the community. There was, one of the IFA staff did say that it's, go by your bylaws, if you don't appoint anybody from Mount Port St. Nick in your community, then not to. Ron Curtis was more like, this is an appointment of, we have one person appointed from Prince of Wales, and that's Mr. Hamilton.
No, from Craig.
From Craig, from Craig, and that's Mr. Hamilton. This one is, at large. And being that we got a whole roll of people out there that's gonna be fighting for this at-large bid, I was gonna renominate Doug Rhodes, appoint him, because we have the best chance of maybe having, two people representing Craig and Prince of Wales, since he's already been on the seat and he's, ready to step up and still do it.
I thought he was from Common Cove.
He paid property tax.
And Kaufman Cove and Craig are both member committees.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a fair amount of time up there.
Okay, I'm good with that. Let's move.
Same, is there a motion?
Yep. Is there a motion? I hear one. Motion.
To nominate Doug Rhodes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on to waterfall access permit.
I motion to approve the access permit to Waterfall Steamboat Baker Union Creek seaplane float for 2025.
Second.
For discussion.
I'd just like to, this isn't directly related, but the backside of the building, I was down there a couple days ago. There's two old vending machines, there's a derelict freezer that are there. And it looks like to me none of them are, you know, they're not usable, they've been there for years, and just to clean the place up, it'd be nice to see them go away.
There's lots of issues if you wanna hear about it. The fascia, whoever did the fascia should have not done two boards stacked on each other, it should have been a full metal wrap, that's gonna rot out your whole, end of your building. So by those machines, that whole wall there where the power is rotten. There's Fred Hamilton building, TLC all over it. Besides, Taquan's hit it every year, so.
I've noticed, there's numerous things that, you know, need attention down there, the sidewalks, there's some sloughing going on in front from settling, so it's, you know, maybe that's something we can look at for a year project, you know, in the coming years, just to basically a whole maintenance program there.
Do we know whose vending machines? I know Thibodeau's used to do vending machines, or, so they're free if their staff pick them up and remove them from the facility.
Nobody's used them in.
From down the city shop, I'm gonna start making some money.
I'm trying to take them out of the city and put them up, how's that?
Wasn't Paul Thibodeau the one that was
Yeah.
taking care of those?
Yeah.
If they work, you take them out to the ball field.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna.
You're taking money from Little League, Josh.
They can have them.
All right. Any more discussion?
I do have a question. So, last year and all the previous years, administrator, did this as a temporary access permit. I think it's I can't remember the 16 point something in the Title 16 where it's, temporary access permit falls under archaeological, and there's a few of them. Anyways, what I was getting at, the lease was from what, May to September for about $2,600-$2,900. So let's just put $2,600 down. And if we do the formula, what does Waterfall have? 120 people every 4 days, 30 boats. Let's say half of those boats actually come to the dock. So 15 boats, 15 times 5. And by the end of the season, we're probably gonna make $900. You know? Okay, so we're gonna make $900, and then on top of all that, the harbor department, if they're in charge of this, has no line of sight to see a boat come in. So, is it gonna be an honor system when they pull up and they put $5 in the little can up there at the top? We're gonna hire another staff member to go down there and do the little tally and say, we got $5 here, we got $12, we got $10. We have no means of collecting money, there's no office down there. This is never gonna work. That's my feeling. I also feel that Waterfall needs more of Craig than we need of Waterfall. If they had to buy a piece of property, put a dock in, service it, maintain it, they're looking at $600,000 to $900,000 to have their own dock. So they can come in here and load and unload people. This thing, so let's say $700,000 to get their own facility. 5% of that, whatever, you're talking like $20,000 a year you're leaving on the table for someone who's making, a business that's making $500,000 every 4 days before their expenses. I'm just saying, this whole thing looks good on paper, but it will never work because we don't have another employee in the budget for FY 26, 25. No one's gonna be collecting money.
Couldn't we put a camera facing down at the dock like they do out at the burn pit where someone is scrolling through and issuing tickets to people that are burning
gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is David Doyon with Misty Fjords there in Ketchikan, Alaska. I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation, but I do have something to add.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to first address the mayor and his fellow gentlemen of the council and mention that I believe that in the interest of Craig, you guys might be missing the big picture. We have an airline that's established for 44 years now. We're going to be servicing the town of Craig primarily, and we're going to be partnering with Waterfall and Steamboat. We have an industry that is in its infancy right now, and getting short-sighted about a small amount of mortgage may not be the direction you guys should be looking. The city of Ketchikan has encountered these things before, where charter boats and multiple aircraft, including jets and seaplanes, are trying to bring commerce in and out of these towns. The thing that I'm saying is, does Craig really consider itself an airport? Because right now, Craig really isn't behaving like an airport. You guys have put enough barricades in front of seaplane operators and people that are bringing passengers and commerce in and out of the community. I really think that the city of Ketchikan has nailed this. We have charter boats coming in and out of the seaplane dock routinely every day, bringing hundreds of people, bringing millions of dollars of revenue to these communities. And we'd like to consider Craig as our partner, but we have other options. And I want you guys to know right up front that we're prepared to move all of our business to co-op if we can reach an arrangement. If you guys think that the future is Pac One, I'm sorry to say, your Amazon Prime boxes may be getting picked up in co-op soon. And the city of Craig should consider this. We want to partner with you guys. We've been there. We've paid our dues. The Fred Hamilton building is truly an embarrassment to the aviation public. The dock is an embarrassment, and it's in a state of disrepair. I think that it's gone on for a lot of years where, you know, the state of Craig has kicked the gift horse in the mouth. And it's really upsetting that, you know, with all of this, you guys are squabbling about a couple of dollars in mortgage for folks, when you really should be looking at the big picture of commerce. You know, we move 50,000, 60,000 people a year in and out of Ketchikan Airport, and I think the city of Craig could be benefiting greatly from taxing these operators, and that's my piece. That's all I have to say. We hope that you guys accept our offer and want to move forward for 2025, because right now, we've been at this for 5 months trying to figure out a solution to these problems, and it's not happening. So that's what I have to say. I'm president and CEO of Misty Fjords Air. I run Doyens Landing Marina. We run yachts in and out of Ketchikan, multiple boats, and, you know, what you guys are doing may not be the best move. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do we not already have an agreement with Misty Fjords?
No.
Not until it's signed, which they're kind of holding off on, pending some discussion and resolution of Waterfall's access as well.
Okay.
The council has approved final terms, but the lease hasn't been executed.
They think Craig is an embarrassment? Where are they gonna dock and co-op?
Well, we go to co-op the runway,
Oh, runway. I see.
right?
So,
If I may, if I may, this is Adam Schiller, General Manager of Steamboat Bay Fishing Club. I'd like to speak on behalf of Waterfall Steamboat, if I could have a moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, I want to keep it really brief. My wife and I have been managing Steamboat Bay for the last decade, and, you know, we've seen operations go. I mean, quite honestly, I'll be completely upfront, is the office in Craig and our access permit over the last several years has been a great benefit to us. We've tried to be great neighbors and great part of the community, despite, you know, some feelings that may be just us routing passengers through there quickly. Actually, you know, oftentimes we'll bring guests over and kind of be a part of Craig. Increasingly, people want to see this So I think we want to be good neighbors. I think there is a lot of opportunity. I think it's just, it's a win-win for everybody. I don't sit in a lot of these meetings. Again, I want to be very brief, and I don't have a lot of experience in politics, but listening to some of the budget constraints and some of the considerations here, I just think, here's an opportunity to sign a lease, a long-term lease, with established operators, people that want to be good neighbors, and have been part of the community in some form or fashion for a very long time, and proven ourselves over the last few years. So I think this is some income that is sitting at your table, and we'd love to move ahead with it. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, what is your access permit worth to you? Monetary value?
No, I mean, looking at like the numbers that you were talking, 3 months, I mean, that was about $14,000, for that, but I mean, we do need more, seaplanes coming to our facility, and I'll try not to discourage anybody, but that was the whole purpose of, once we found out that we have not been receiving any funds to maintenance our facilities, and they were going at such a low cost that we couldn't maintenance our facilities. That's where we started looking actually after the direction, and we got all of our information from the city of Ketchikan, Borough of Ketchikan, on their float plane facility, on how they utilize float planes and boats into the same dock. So we actually cut and pasted exactly the ordinance from Ketchikan Borough, and put it just in our serving to basically try to reclaim some money to be able to actually maintenance the facility. So, yeah,